I was reviewing tenant applications at my home office when my brother Marcus called. You need to sign the closing documents, he said without preamble. Dad's selling the duplex on Riverside. Your signature needs to be notarized by Wednesday. The duplex on Riverside. The property I'd purchased in 2015 with my first year-end bonus from the architecture firm. The building I'd renovated myself, learning plumbing and electrical work through YouTube videos and bruised knuckles. The investment my father had called adorable when I'd shown him the deed. Marcus, I own that property. Solely. Yeah, well, Dad says it's always been family property. The buyers are paying $680,000. Your share is $170,000 after Dad takes his management fee. He paused. Just sign the papers, okay? Don't make this difficult. I hung up and pulled my property file from the cabinet. The smell of old paper and ink. The deed felt heavy in my hands, official and real. Emma Rodriguez, sole owner. Purchase date, March 2015. Purchase price, $340,000. My phone rang again. Mom this time. Emma, darling, we need you to come to the title company tomorrow. Just a formality, you know how these things are. Bring your ID and sign where they indicate. Who are the buyers? I asked. A lovely couple from California. Cash offer, no contingencies. We're so fortunate. She lowered her voice conspiratorially. I've already picked out the boat furniture. Coastal Interiors has the most beautiful teak pieces. I called my attorney instead. Sarah Chin had handled my business contracts since I'd started acquiring rental properties 4 years ago. She answered on the second ring. They're trying to sell your property without your consent? Apparently they've scheduled closing for Friday. Who's handling escrow? I don't know yet. Mom mentioned a title company. Find out which one. I'll file an emergency injunction, but I need specifics. She paused. Emma, do you have all your ownership documentation? Everything. Deed, title, insurance, tax records, mortgage statements. The property's been in my name alone for 9 years. Good. Gather certified copies of everything. We're going to need them. I discovered the escrow company's identity through the county recorder's website. Someone had filed a preliminary title report for 847 Riverside Avenue. The escrow company, Pacific Trust and Title Officer assigned, Jennifer Huang. I called Pacific Trust directly. Ms. Rodriguez, Jennifer Huang said when I reached her, I was actually planning to contact you today. There's a discrepancy in the title chain I need to resolve before we can proceed to closing. What kind of discrepancy? The sellers, Robert and Patricia Rodriguez, have represented themselves as the owners. But when I pulled the county records, your name appears as the sole owner of record since 2015. There's no transfer, no deed, no documentation supporting their claim. Her voice was carefully neutral. Did you authorize this sale? No. The silence lasted 3 seconds. I see. I'll need to inform all parties that closing cannot proceed until this is resolved. I'm also required to report potential title fraud to our compliance department. I understand. Ms. Rodriguez, I should mention, your parents have already signed the purchase agreement. The buyers have deposited $68,000 in earnest money. The wire transfer for the remaining $612,000 was scheduled to process Friday morning. $612,000. Mom's boat furniture suddenly made more sense. The ghost ledger. I opened my laptop and created a spreadsheet I'd been mentally compiling for years. Title: The Cost of Being Invisible. Entry 1, March 2015. Purchased duplex for $340,000. Worked 83-hour weeks for 6 months to save down payment. Called Dad to share the news. His response: That's in a rough neighborhood, sweetheart. You should have consulted me first. Cost: Having my first major achievement framed as a mistake requiring his wisdom. Entry 2, July 2015. Spent $47,000 on renovations. Learned plumbing, electrical, carpentry. Dad visited once, walked through in 15 minutes, said, "Cute project. Let me know when you need real guidance." Cost: 3 months of work dismissed in 15 minutes. Entry 3, December 2016. First full year of rental income. $43,200. Mentioned it at Christmas dinner. Mom patted my hand. "That's nice, dear. Your father's been managing properties for 30 years. You'll learn. Cost. My expertise erased by her timeline. Entry 4, April 2018. Refinance to access equity for second property purchase. Dad asked for the loan details, then spent 20 minutes explaining what I'd done wrong. Didn't ask about my plans. Didn't acknowledge I'd built $180,000 in equity in 3 years. Cost. Being treated like a child playing with adult tools. Entry 5, June 2019. Property appraised at $520,000. Invited family to see the improvements. Dad walked through, said, "Good bones. I always knew this area would appreciate." Cost. He took credit for my location choice he'd originally called a mistake. The ledger grew to 53 entries. A decade of achievements reframed as luck, borrowed wisdom, or temporary stewardship of what truly belonged to them. Jennifer Huang called back within 2 hours. "I've spoken with the buyer's agent and your parents' representative. I've informed all parties that closing is suspended pending resolution of the ownership dispute." She paused. "Your parents' attorney is demanding we proceed. He's claiming some kind of family trust arrangement." "There's no trust. I can provide 9 years of documentation." "Please do. I'll need certified copies of your deed, all tax records, insurance policies, and any mortgage documents. Also, Ms. Rodriguez," her voice dropped slightly, "I should mention that your parents signed seller disclosures under penalty of perjury attesting that they own the property free and clear." Perjury. The word hung in the air like smoke. "I'll send everything today," I said. "The evidence archive." I spent 4 hours assembling the complete paper trail. Original deed recorded March 2015. Title insurance policy, $340,000 coverage. 9 years of property tax statements all in my name. Mortgage documents and payment history. Refinance documents from 2018. Insurance policies, all listing me as sole owner. Rental agreements with tenants, all signed by me as landlord. Bank statements showing rental income deposits. Receipts for all repairs and improvements, totaling $73,400. County assessor records showing continuous ownership. Total documentation, 427 pages. I sent certified copies to Jennifer Huang, Sarah Chin, and kept one set for myself. The call from Dad came at 9:47 p.m. "What the hell did you send to the escrow company?" His voice was tight with rage. "You're sabotaging a legitimate sale. I sent proof that I own the property you're trying to sell. That property has always been family property. You've just been managing it. I purchased it with my own money. My name is on the deed. Only my name. You wouldn't have known about that property without my connections. You wouldn't have qualified for the loan without my cosign. You didn't cosign my loan, Dad. I qualified independently. I have the mortgage documents. You're being unreasonable. The buyers are threatening to sue. We could lose the earnest money." "You could lose more than that," I said quietly. "You committed fraud when you signed those disclosures." He hung up. The procedural cascade. Day 1. Sarah filed an emergency motion for injunctive relief, preventing any transfer of the property. Judge Robert Morrison granted it within 4 hours. Day 2. The buyer's attorney contacted Sarah. The buyers wanted out. They'd been told the property was owned free and clear by a retired couple. Learning about the ownership dispute and potential fraud made them uncomfortable. Day 3. The buyers formally withdrew. The purchase agreement was canceled. Their $68,000 earnest money was returned. Day 4. Pacific Trust's Compliance Department launched a formal investigation into the transaction. Jennifer Huang's report documented the complete ownership timeline and my parents' false representations. Day 5. My parents' attorney, Donald Reeves, called Sarah requesting a meeting. "Perhaps we can resolve this without litigation. Your clients attempted to sell property they don't own," Sarah said. "They signed legal documents under penalty of perjury making false claims. What exactly do you propose to resolve?" The meeting never happened. Day 6. I received a certified letter from Reeves. My parents were claiming I'd verbally agreed to transfer the property to them in 2015. They had witnesses, my Uncle Frank and Aunt Diane, who would testify to this. I'd never had that conversation. Uncle Frank and Aunt Diane had been at the same Christmas dinner where Dad announced we had acquired a property, but I'd never agreed to anything. Day 7. Sarah deposed my uncle and aunt. Under oath, their story fell apart immediately. So you heard Robert Rodriguez say they'd acquired a property? Sarah asked. Yes, Frank confirmed. Did you hear Emma Rodriguez agree to transfer ownership? Frank shifted in his seat. Well, not in those exact words. In any words? She didn't. She was there. She didn't object. Silence isn't consent to property transfer, Mr. Rodriguez. Did she ever say, I agree to give you my property? No. Diane's deposition lasted 12 minutes. She admitted she'd never heard me agree to anything. Day 8. I filed a formal complaint with the State Attorney General's office regarding the fraudulent sale attempt. Day 9. The AG's office opened an investigation. Day 10. Reeves called Sarah again. My parents wanted to settle. They'd sign a document acknowledging my sole ownership and agree to pay my attorney's fees. $18,000 so far. If I agreed not to pursue criminal charges. No, I said when Sarah presented the offer. Emma, you'd get acknowledgement of ownership and full reimbursement. They tried to steal $680,000 from me. They committed fraud. They would have succeeded if the escrow officer hadn't been diligent. I paused. They need consequences. Sarah was quiet for a moment. All right. I'll convey your decision. Day 11. The AG's office completed its preliminary investigation and referred the matter to the county prosecutor for criminal charges: fraud, attempted grand theft, and perjury on official documents. Day 12. My parents were formally charged. Arraignment scheduled for 3 weeks out. Day 13. Marcus called. You're really doing this? You're prosecuting Mom and Dad. They tried to steal my property. It's just a building, Emma. It's family. If it's just a building, why did they try to sell it for $680,000? He didn't have an answer. Day 14. Mom left a voicemail. I could hear her crying. Please, Emma. We made a mistake. Don't destroy your family over this. I saved the voicemail but didn't call back. The plea agreement came 6 weeks later. My parents pleaded guilty to attempted fraud. Sentencing: 2 years probation, $25,000 fine split between them, full restitution of my attorney's fees, now $31,400, and a permanent restraining order preventing them from making any claims on my properties. The prosecutor wanted jail time, but I told him probation was sufficient. I didn't need them in prison. I needed them gone. 9 months later, I stood in the kitchen of the Riverside duplex. My tenant had just moved out and I was considering whether to renovate again or sell on my own terms. The property was now worth $740,000. I'd added 3 more properties to my portfolio since the lawsuit. 12 units total, all in my name alone. Mom's boat furniture was never purchased. They'd used the $50,000 they'd saved for the down payment to cover legal fees instead. Marcus sent occasional emails asking if I'd reconsider the restraining order. I never responded. There's a particular freedom in watching consequences arrive with the precision they were always meant to have. Not revenge. Just the mathematics of cause and effect finally balancing. The duplex still stands at 847 Riverside Avenue. The deed still bears my name alone. The sale my parents scheduled never happened. From the property I fought to keep, my empire continues to grow.